Every building has a red box on the wall, a fire alarm with the promise, in case of emergency, break glass. For Canada, that moment is now. The glass is cracked, the alarm is ringing. We once believed the system was sound, that things would fix themselves. But small problems have merged into a crisis, touching every corner of the country. This is not just an economic downturn, it's a breakdown of the Canadian promise. Now is the moment to break the glass, to face the crisis with honesty and urgency. Homeownership was once a cornerstone of the Canadian middle class. It was more than just a financial asset, it was a symbol of stability. For generations it was an attainable goal. A young couple could save, get a mortgage, and buy a starter home. Today, that story sounds like a fairy tale. Prices have detached from the reality of wages. The dream of a home has become a source of national anxiety. In major cities like Vancouver and Toronto, the average house price is well over $1 million. Meanwhile, incomes have stagnated. The gap between earnings and home costs is a chasm. This isn't just a problem for first-time buyers. It affects everyone. It traps people in rental situations they can't escape. It forces families to move hours away from their jobs and support networks. The rental market should offer a safe and affordable alternative, but it doesn't. Vacancy rates in many cities are near zero. This scarcity gives landlords all the power. It means rents are rising at an alarming rate, often consuming half of a person's take-home pay. Families are squeezed into apartments that are too small. The social fabric is fraying because of this. Communities are hollowed out. The housing crisis is not just about shelter, it's about the very soul of our communities. Canada's economy looks like it's growing, with headline GDP numbers rising. But this is an illusion. Our growth is driven by population, not by individuals getting richer. For most Canadians, incomes are flat while costs soar. Public services are strained, and the average Canadian is paying the price. For generations, Canada's prosperity was built on its natural resources. Forestry, mining, oil and gas provided good-paying jobs, often in rural and remote communities. A person could graduate high school, get a job at the local mill or in the oil patch, and build a comfortable life. That path, for many, has disappeared. The world is changing, and these resource-driven jobs are in decline. The biggest driver is automation. A modern mine or forestry operation requires a fraction of the workers it did a generation ago. This is a story of progress, of efficiency, but it is also a story of displacement. For every new high-tech job created, many more traditional jobs are lost, and the communities built around those jobs are left to wonder what comes next. This hollowing out of rural Canada has profound consequences. When the main employer in a town shuts down, it creates a domino effect. Young people leave to find work elsewhere, leaving behind an aging population. Main Street becomes a collection of boarded-up storefronts. These are not just economic losses, they are social and cultural losses. We have not done enough to manage this transition. As a result, a deep sense of resentment and alienation has taken root in many parts of the country. Section 5. Two Canadas, the urban-rural divide. Canada's geography has always been a defining feature. It's a vast country, but our population isn't spread evenly. We're one of the most urbanized nations on Earth. The vast majority of Canadians live in a few large metropolitan areas. This concentration of people and economic power in a handful of cities has created a deep and widening divide. We're becoming a nation of two Canadas, the booming expensive urban centers, and the struggling depopulating rural regions. The best jobs, the highest salaries, and the greatest opportunities are found in cities like Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. This influx of human capital makes the cities even more dynamic and productive, which in turn attracts more people. Rural areas and smaller towns experience a brain drain, losing their next generation of leaders. This divide is at the heart of our housing crisis. The relentless demand to live in a few key cities has sent property values soaring. At the same time, in many rural areas, houses sit empty or sell for a fraction of their urban counterparts. But the lack of jobs means people can't simply move to these more affordable places. The gap isn't just economic, it's cultural and political. People in urban and rural Canada are living increasingly different realities. This breeds misunderstanding and resentment. It polarizes our politics. To build a more united and prosperous country, we must bridge this divide. Section 6. Drowning in debt, searching for a roof. To understand the pressure on Canadian families, you need to look at their balance sheets, and what you'll find is debt. Canadian households are among the most indebted in the developed world. For years, we've been borrowing against the rising value of our homes. This worked as long as house prices kept rising and interest rates stayed low. But now, The party is over. Interest rates have risen sharply to combat inflation, and for millions of families the bill is coming due. The numbers required to enter the housing market are a perfect illustration of this debt trap. In a city like Toronto, the minimum qualifying income to buy an average home is now over $200,000. This forces them into a desperate situation. They either give up on the dream of ownership entirely, or they stretch themselves to the absolute financial limit. They take on massive mortgages, leaving them with no cushion for emergencies. The rental market offers no escape. As more people are priced out of ownership, they flood into the rental market. This increased demand, combined with a chronic shortage of new rental supply, sends prices soaring. Families are forced to spend an ever larger share of their income just to keep a roof over their heads. This combination of high debt and a vanishing rental supply is squeezing the middle class from both sides. It's a slow-motion crisis that is eroding financial security and mental well-being. Section 7. The high price of being Canadian. The affordability crisis goes beyond housing. It extends to the basic services we use every day. In many of these essential sectors, Canadians pay some of the highest prices in the world. Think about your cell phone bill. Think about your internet bill. Think about your bank fees. In Canada, many key industries are dominated by a small handful of large players. This oligopoly structure means they have little incentive to lower prices or improve service. They can charge what they want, because where else are you going to go? Take our telecommunications sector. It's controlled by three main companies. For years, they've enjoyed protected status, shielded from significant foreign competition. The result is that Canadians pay some of the highest mobile data prices in the industrialized world. This is not just an inconvenience. In the modern economy, reliable and affordable internet is not a luxury. It's a necessity. By allowing this sector to remain uncompetitive, we're effectively imposing a private tax on every Canadian. The same story plays out in our banking sector. The Big Five banks dominate the industry. Our grocery sector is also highly concentrated, with just a few chains controlling the majority of the market. The high price of being Canadian is not an accident, it's the predictable result of policy choices. Section 8. Breaking the glass and building anew. The alarm is ringing. The emergency is here. It's time to break the glass. Acknowledging the crisis is not an act of pessimism, it's an act of hope. It's the first step toward building a better, fairer, and more prosperous Canada. We've faced great challenges before, and we've overcome them. We can do it again. But it will require bold, urgent action. Tinkering around the edges will not be enough. We need a fundamental rethink of the policies that brought us to this point. First, and most urgently, we must build more homes. A lot more. We need a national effort to dramatically increase supply. This means cutting red tape and speeding up approvals for new construction. We need to build all types of housing, market-rate rentals, affordable housing, and co-ops. Second, we must focus relentlessly on productivity and innovation. We cannot rely on population growth to create prosperity. We need to invest in education, in research and development, and in modern infrastructure. This also means revitalizing our rural economies. Finally, we must inject real competition into our economy. We need to reform our competition laws to give them more teeth. Lowering the cost of essential services is one of the fastest and most direct ways to put money back into the pockets of Canadian families. The time for excuses is over. The time for action is now. Let's get to work.